Bam! What's going on, my super fam? Alright, wow, oh my god, Navia's lovelies as always, guys. Wow, as usual, guys, we have the banner official confirmation of Nilou and Navia today. So we're going to be making this video looking into some of the things that you maybe want to look into before you actually go ahead and pull on Nilou and Navia's banners. Usual, you know, the stuff we do on the channel. But the video is also going to be very important too, because other than that, not only is patch 4.8 coming, but afterward 5.0 is basically here, which is a pretty important kind of timing to be discussing a lot of the stuff, especially when there are so many upcoming characters that you guys have to think about, you know, whether or not you should be pulling, right? So without further ado, let's just dive right in. Now guys, regarding Navia and Nilou, I actually already discussed them very much in this specific video right here that I'm putting up on the screen right now, so I won't be going in depth into these two characters anymore in this video, because you can actually check that video out, so I'm sure it will be very helpful to you. But what I'll do say is that briefly regarding two of these characters, you know, first of all is Navia. I love Navia a lot, guys. She's a saving grace for Geo. She's very beautiful. She does what she is supposed to do very well, right? Which is a Geo DPS that doesn't actually feel that much like a Geo character, because while she's a character that isn't supposed to be working in teams such as Mono Geo team comps, but more like a character that wants slot in terms of different element, so that you can actually go ahead and crystallize for her shrapnel to be available for her, you know, E-skill to shoots out very nice nuke shot. Power level, I don't think we have to discuss too much, because you know, she is kind of like, I would say at this point in time, like an A tier DPS at this point if you're looking into kind of like a Genshin tier list. However, with all of that aside, I do feel that, you know, whenever you want to pull for Navia, it still a lot comes down to preference wise, because one of the things that Navia would really love to have is going to be her weapon, right? Other than you know, her weapon, obviously you have some other 5-star options that's really good on her, but especially when it comes to the 4-star broad blade, Serpent Spine is like one of the best 4-star options she has right now. Obviously you can use like the Melazine sword, but it will, like guys, you will really want that, right? It's a huge DPS loss across some of these 4-star options, so like you do really kind of want to invest into a battle pass options. Otherwise, right, the 5-star or her signature 5-star is just so good that it kind of feel at time that she can be slightly weapon gated. So if you really love Navia and you're planning to pull for her, might want to consider going for her weapons. And other than that, right, her gameplay is a lot comes down to nuking damage, so you really have to rely a lot on, you know, your aiming skill slightly here at times to make sure that two of her E skill actually land a shot and you're playing her correctly as well, which overall is a pretty fun gameplay, but more or less overall is a preference character, because obviously she is a DPS at the end of the day. Constellation wise, I've discussed a lot in the other video, but what I will say is that if you're investing into Navia, kind of like a C2 to a C3 is kind of like a sweet spot that you can be at. Obviously, if you're investing into C3 anyway, you have a lot of potential to invest into other characters too. So I don't really think I have to discuss much about it. But overall, Navia Constellation is actually pretty good, so if you are going for it, I think it's a worthwhile investment. Now for our lovely Nilou, she's going to be having a new outfit, which is great. Look at that. Nilou's absolutely cute, guys. She's been doing everything that she's supposed to be doing ever since, you know, her release, and till this day, her team comp is still one of the best AoE team in Genshin Impact. Whenever you think of AoE team, I think it's very hard to find a different team that can do AoE damage as well as Nilou Bloom team can be, because you know, the Bloom core, Nilou Bloom core that she spawns is just actually so powerful in terms of AoE, and it spawns so much that we've always considered Nilou Bloom team to be kind of like a brain dead team, that kind of like a cheat code that you can actually just put on your account and win content. She's so easy to build around, guys, like, right, you only need Hydro and Dendro character. Technically speaking, most of you already have free to play Dendro and Hydro character options, right? Like Barbara, Dendro MC, slot those character in and Nilou Bloom team will still be able to do very well, right? Advanced version, obviously going forward to Nahida, Kokumi, right? That's very much perfect, even if you have Siege Queen as well, right? For those of you who actually go ahead and pull for Siege Queen on a Nilou Bloom team can still be very good. And Nilou has a lot of potential coming toward in the future as well, because while Dendro and Hydro characters are non-stop coming, so I don't know how different Hydro and Dendro characters kit are going to be, but who knows, they might have a lot of other potential support toward Nilou in the future too. So I always recommend you guys, if you are thinking about pulling for a good character on your account, Nilou is always one of my top recommendations because she's just so easy to build, very easy to play, don't really have to think much about her, and you know, her future potential is always going to be there. Alright, next let's have a look into the banner specifically, because wow, this is interesting because this time around we managed to actually got 2 character prediction right on the banner. You know, if you guys haven't checked out the last prediction video that we usually do, I usually have a prediction 4-star fun video on the channel. It's really good. But we were predicting Kaveh. This guy has to be back. There's no other way he's not back at this point in time, right? Because he's such a good character. You know, if you want to use him on a Nilou team, that's totally fine. Kirara, I've predicted her to be here as well, because especially when he's being featured in the new island, Summer Island, a lot, as well as she also has a new outfit. I feel that she has a high chance of appearing on the banner too. Especially when, right, if you want to use Kirara on Nilou Bloom team, she can still do that, right? The only character that we didn't manage to actually think of is actually Ningguang, because Ningguang's just been back since patch 4.4, so I didn't really think that they're making such a leeway for her to be back this early. But now let's quickly have a look into each of the character, right? Kaveh, a little bit hard for you to use if you really do want to build him, because he's kind of like a sub-dedicated character toward the things that he does, which is kind of like similar to Nilou Bloom team. Of course, it's not as restricted as Nilou because he can still be used in different Dendro team. But again, he's more toward of a preference character if you do really decide to use him. His constellation isn't too bad. If you do have his constellation, it does buff his power level to pretty decent. So overall, he's still a good and fun character if you do decide to build Kaveh, right? If you don't have anything else to do in the game, then yes, Kaveh is still pretty nice. Now Kirara, interesting character too. Pretty good Dendro shield if you want to build her under that route. But again, right, she's still pretty much a preference character if you do want to build her. She does have some interesting constellations. First 2 does have the ability to support your team in certain way, right? C1 gives her slightly more damage and also a bit of Dendro application, a little bit. C2 increases her shield capacity, which is pretty nice. I think one of the goals that Kirara have whenever you use her on her team. C4 is actually pretty interesting, right? It allows Kirara to be kind of like a slightly sub DPS. I don't think she's going to be dealing that much of damage unless you really build her as a damage dealer. But this actually helps Kirara to help your team with slightly a bit of Dendro application, so that's kind of nice. And her C6 actually buff elemental damage bonus, which is kind of rare across character and constellation, which is kind of like a nice thing for you to have. So overall, interesting character, especially when her outfit is actually so cute, guys, that I feel that many of us are going to be starting to look into building more of Kirara here and there. And then Ningguang, as I mentioned, a pretty interesting character to be here because she does work with Navia if you really want her to, because the biggest thing is going to be the 12% shield damage bonus for Navia. And not only that, obviously, right, she has a little bit of shielding block from her E skill, but moreover, she synergizes with Navia team rather well because Navia is kind of like a nuker. After she deals her E skill, she might be off for a couple of seconds. That's when Ningguang can actually comes in. If you do build Ningguang as a burst DPS, she can deal pretty good damage, right? It's her damage from her burst, if you do it correctly, it is not that bad. So, but overall, her potential are somewhat similar to Geo MC's potential. So many of the time, I do just recommend you use Geo MC rather than that. But if you want to have a more fun gameplay toward burst DPS for Ningguang, it's pretty decently good, especially when you have more of her constellation, right? So yeah, that's something you can consider. Now, for the weapon banner, this is an interesting banner because if you're pulling for Navia's weapon, then this weapon banner is actually pretty decent because, well, if you do lose to the key, then the key is actually one of the best support weapon that you also have in the game. For this weapon, it's not just good for Nilou, but also good for Furina as well. It's also one of the best weapons for Furina if you're using her on an elemental reaction focus team, like on the Hu Tao team. This is better than Furina's signature in elemental reaction focus team. We've tested out. It is very good. So while don't take this weapon lightly, it actually has a lot of potential. However, if you are using it for Nilou, then this weapon is just too good for Nilou right now because this weapon is still one of the few HP sword that we have in the game. And also the sad part about this weapon banner for Nilou too is that they didn't give us a sword HP 4-star options, but instead they put in the Cypher's Moonlight. So that's kind of sucks for Nilou. It's because, well, Cypher's Moonlight isn't actually a sword for Nilou, even though it looks good on her. Because many of the time, Nilou is not going to be the Dendro Core Trigger, so she doesn't really need to be holding a Cypher's Moonlight. But it's actually a very good sword for Kazuha, if you're thinking about it. So getting a Cypher's Moonlight isn't that bad, but what I'm trying to say is that we don't have an HP 4-star sword option that they are giving on the banner, so that kind of sucks if you are going for a Nilou weapon, right? Because if you are, then you have to have a Nilou guaranteed weapon pooled. Otherwise, if you do lose to a Navia Claymore, then it's actually not that good, because Navia, the verdict is only good for Navia at this point in time. It is, well, you can use and force it on other Claymore character, but you're not going to be making the most out of the passive. Well, other than that, the 4-star options, we've got the Dragon's Bane, that is good. The Rust is okay. Not many of the character actually uses nowadays, and you know, the other two is actually not that good. If you're pulling for Navia weapon, overall, this is pretty decent. But if you're going for a Nilou weapon, then the weapon banner isn't really too good for you right now. So really consider hard whenever you're going for it, and I really do wish you good luck if you are going to pull on the weapon banner. But other than that, a more important discussion that we have to look into right now is the newer character that is going to be coming very, very soon. Because other than, you know, Emily and Yelan, who's going to be coming back in the second phase of patch 4.8, we know some of the Natlin character who's going to be here, alright? Mualani, we kind of expected as much that she's going to be here, but oh my god, she's cute, right? That's another Hydro character, guys. And we already know what kind of potential Hydro character have in Genshin Impact, and I'm pretty sure they are not going to be messing up Mualani's kit. Because considering some of the first few Natlin characters that are coming, this has to be a pretty decent character at the very least. So from her design, I am 99% sure that she's going to be a 5-star character. I don't think it's confirmed at this point in time, but yeah, this girl is going to be a 5-star character. Now in terms of DPS or sub DPS, I don't know just yet. I mean, wow, hopefully she is going to be a DPS character, because wow, at this point in time, I feel like I've already got enough sub DPS character, you know, like Furina, so I kind of want to have like a good female Hydro character that can be on the field. Maybe, who knows, right? She's going to be like surfing a shark board on the battlefield and do AoE Hydro damage. Oh my god, I think there's a lot that's coming to Mualani, so we can't wait for her attack animation that's going to be coming soon. Next is gonna be Kinich. Now I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name properly, but we're sure that he's going to be a Dendro character. Again, we don't know if he's going to be a DPS or a sub DPS character, but you know, from the look of his design, I feel like he's going to be another Dendro DPS character. But obviously we don't know, right? We don't even know which weapon that he's going to be using just yet. For some reason, I feel like he's either going to be a whole arm or, you know, a Claymore character. But obviously that's still pretty much a guess at this point in time. But as we've mentioned before, right, when I talk about Nilou has a lot of future potential to come, we're already seeing another Dendro and Hydro character newly added into Natlin, right? So who knows, these characters are going to be very good at Nilou team. But wow, if you're going to be pulling for a Nilou on the banner, I really wish you good luck that you have enough Primo Gems whenever these two characters are going to be coming, because well, I think that Kinich is going to be a 5-star character. Whereas another character who's coming is gonna be Kashina, Geo character, right? Well, I think this girl is gonna be 4-star. She kinda have 4-star design. Kind of, I'd say, is because her design is actually not that bad, and she also has the potential to be 5-star, right? But other than that, very much just going to be a good guess at this point in time. We don't have a lot of information on these characters yet, and we'll still have to wait. But the point still stands that a lot of new characters are going to be coming, guys. Think about your pools really, really hard if you're making the decision to pull on patch 4.8. Natlin's obviously going to be coming, and I'm going to be making a lot more videos regarding Genshin new character in the future on the channel. So guys, if you're still on the fence about whichever character to be pulling specifically in patch 4.8 second phase as well, don't forget to check out the video I'm putting up on screen here. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for future upcoming Genshin videos. I think that's all I have to say regarding the new banner, guys. I really appreciate you guys staying with me to this part of the video, and with that, I wish you a super day, and I will catch you on my next video.